Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of CookieCast. Today on CookieCast, something a little bit different. Similar, but different. So we love a wrestling podcast. Every now and then, once we did a results podcast. So this is what's known in the business as a collab, because we've got results podcast for wrestling and beer podcast tagged on. Put the two together, you get a wrestling podcast with beer talk. Yeah. So, there you go. Enjoy that. If you're checking us out on YouTube, big thanks. If you're a YouTube subscriber, sweet. If you're listening to us audio-wise and you're also subscribing, that's amazing. If you're not one of those people, please do. It really does let us know just how much you love us, and we're all insecure. Here we go. This is CookieCast Getting Over.
Recording in progress.
It's true, she doesn't lie. Oh, I don't know that for a fact, but in this case she's not lying. And for this one, I'm going to hand over the reins to Stuart Woodmansey. Over to you, sir.
Hello. Welcome along, ladies and gents. If you were with us for Getting Over 36 last week, as promised, here we are with a little bit of a very special crossover episode of Getting Over meets The Pursuit of Hoppiness. I mean, getting hoppiness, getting over the pursuit of hoppiness, we've just talked about. Call it what you will, but we're here for some results and we're here for some beer. So we'll get into all of that very, very shortly. We're here to catch up on the results from last weekend's SummerSlam pay-per-view, see who currently holds the pay-per-view predictions title, and then raise a glass to the victory as we review the Brew York Survivor Series Cryo Pop beers. Sound good? We're in.
I was going to say, is it that sort of thing where we could be the pursuit of getting over?
You know how there's always that one person who has to take it too far, and it's always you, Paul.
But if
that sounds like a self-help podcast way of
But
the pursuit of getting over
with your inner self to deal with past wrongs and stuff like that.
I thought the pursuit of getting over sounds more like the Missing Adrian Mole book, but whatever. Anyway, so yeah, should we get into the predictions title as we were? So, heading into SummerSlam, Matt took the title and seemingly confident heading into the biggest party of the summer. And there was a few messages flying backwards and forwards over the weekend. Matt also seemingly was quite confident about the results coming out of SummerSlam. So let's see if that confidence would be rewarded. First things first, the points were out of 10. But as we also talked about on the last episode of Getting Over, we kind of decided between us that not all matches that were featured in the predictions and in the advertising would probably end up making the card. It's probably fair to assume that we all hoped it might be we all thought it might be the Eva Marie match. It turns out, in reality, Sasha Banks didn't challenge Bianca Belair for the SmackDown Women's title, and that ended up giving us a maximum score of 9. So, as per usual, no particular order, that's the very particular order, I am happy to say that out of 9, nobody scored less than 5, so everybody's above the 50% average this time. But taking the wooden spoon on this episode is Mr. Paul Williams with 5. He had a few results let him down. Particularly out there, if you may remember from the last podcast, was Paul's prediction of a double count out in the Edge versus Seth Rollins match.
I know what I saw.
And all the rest of us saw Edge winning that happened, so you well.
No, I saw it with my own two eyes. There was a portion of time where they were both on the outside, and I counted to 10 very quickly. So
that, ladies and gentlemen, is why Paul is not currently wearing a black and white striped shirt. I ended up finishing third with 7 out of 9, so that tells you how tight this has been now.
Andy's ears pricked up there, didn't they? Look at that.
My particular letdown was the fact that I thought that AJ and Omos could possibly hold on to the Raw tag team titles against the newly reformed force of RK Bro, and you guys all went that route. However, playing for points didn't pay off for me. So let's get into the first and second positions. And speaking of playing for points, a certain member of the podcast has a particular reputation by this point for playing for points. I mean, he's shaking his head down there in the corner, but we all know that it's Andy. And
Slander.
Unfortunately for you, Matt,
What?
it worked this time.
Oh!
Sold it.
Taking the predictions title with what was inadvertently his now third clean sweep of the predictions, thanks to the cancellation of the Bianca Belair Sasha Banks match, was Mr. Andy Cook with 9 out of 9. Matt can feel very hard done by here because he finished on 8. So it was very close. And do you want me to rub some salt in that wound, Matt? Do you know what was the match that swung it?
It was the Charlotte Flair match.
Yep. So not only do we have to now suffer through Charlotte Flair's 357th title reign in about as many days, and Andy also takes
You have
the
to
title
suffer
away.
through my title reign. Again.
So,
I was feeling confident. I didn't think that anyone had gone like full card prediction there. I was sat there thinking, I'm feeling good here. Like I know I got the Bel Air one wrong, and I knew I got the 2 women's matches wrong, but I'm sure Andy had gone kind of like Jinder at some point, or kind of Oldberg somewhere along the line. I was like, deserted the beloved Randy, Randall Keith at some point, Oh, damn it.
I think the confusion probably arose because during the predictions, it was Paul that picked Jinder, but I'm pretty sure that it was just because he got mixed up and thought it said Ginger. Sticking with the brethren. Because on that note, he also predicted Sheamus to retain the US title and was the only one that got that one wrong as well. So, in terms of surprises of the night, I mean, we can talk about returns all you like, but I mean, the biggest surprise was the fact that the Eva Marie match made it onto the card, as I've already discussed. And she actually had a match, and it actually had a pinfall and like a decision. And I mean, sure, there was
the first proper match that she's ever had.
No, I'm pretty sure she wrestled in NXT properly.
Oh,
I'm going to say properly to her standards, obviously. I'm not going to get into slagging her off. I do think that she has had time to improve. I think the fact that this was like a first proper match will also then signify that we're going to get more down the line. So if she's gonna go for it, then cool. Hopefully she'll be better than she was last time around. But yeah, we did get that match. In terms of match of the night, for me, I'm going to pick Paul's double count-out match of Edge versus Seth Rollins. Whilst it possibly was somewhat predictable in the respect that 3 out of the 4 of us got it right, some of the things that happened in the match were just I was not expecting. And straight on the top of that list was the fact that Edge paid homage to his Hall of Fame wife by pulling out Beth Phoenix's finisher during the course of the match and hitting Rollins with a glam slam. Nice touch, that. Very much enjoyed that. But just the whole match in and of itself, just that to me was the one that probably told the best story all night. And just the best in ring action. So I've gone for Edge versus Seth Rollins. For you guys that have seen some of it, do anybody else picking out any highlights?
I'm trying to rack my brain now, but I've had sort of SummerSlam ruined because the only match I've got in my head now is the Ilya Dragunov Volta match from TakeOver. That's the only thing I can think about from a wrestling perspective now. So I'm having to really sort of rack my brain to try and go back to what happened at SummerSlam. I enjoyed the Reigns Cena match, to be fair. That was better than I thought it was going to be, personally.
We were all disappointed to learn that for the first time in history that Cena actually brought out a T-shirt that all of us would buy, themed around Super Mario Brothers 3 from memory. And it turns out that to get hold of that T-shirt, there was only 500 of them made, and you have to buy something that costs $1,000 to get that included with that box. So, let's not do that.
When's yours turning up, Stu?
It's absolutely not. I suppose
don't pull at that thread, Andrew. You know he'll bite. You know he'll bite.
Speaking of spending a lot of money on wrestling stuff, I should probably shout out to Wrestle HQ at this point because we might even have an unboxing on our hands by the time that my stuff arrives from there. I've partook in a box this month and have been adding stuff to it throughout the month, so we'll I'm sure that'll crop up on a future episode. But
kind of sneak it in as well. They've got a sale on there at the moment. It's absolutely awesome. Some of the stuff he's got on sale there at the moment to kind of.
Yeah, some more of that might be getting added to the box, but we'll see. Sarah, that's if you're listening, absolutely not happening. Any other particular highlights that anybody wants to pull up from SummerSlam?
I mean, I don't know. I'll leave it to Andy, but go on then.
I saw an image of somebody supporting a hairstyle that looked a little bit like this and a beard that looked a little bit like this. A little bit more blonde, and I think he was a bit
ginger.
A bit beefier than me. But some of you might, if you look past the hair and the beard, might have seen one Broccoli Rob, surely.
So the best thing about that was the fact that, and I think a lot of this was missed. I certainly didn't know it until a couple of days ago. Was the fact that so obviously he had his big comeback at the end of the pay-per-view and stuff like that, and then the feed obviously stopped. After the pay-per-view went off the air, he just decided to kick the shit out of John Cena for like 10 minutes or something like that. It's like, what? When did that happen?
Yeah, I saw that. They put it out as one of the social things, didn't they? As bits you might have missed from SummerSlam. Well, yeah, because do you know what? Wasn't on SummerSlam. That's why I missed it. But yeah, delivering what can only be described as a thunderous F5 to John Cena, and fair play to Cena, having the match that he had with Reigns, and then having to take that at the end of it. Cena now seemingly rides off into the sunset. Having released a bit of a post saying that his path takes him now away from WWE for the foreseeable. Obviously didn't commit to the fact that path won't then swing by again at some point, which I'm sure it will. However, the SummerSlam in and of itself was kind of dominated by returns. In fact, the whole weekend of wrestling was dominated by returns because not only did we get Brock, and we're now obviously going to get the Brock and Roman Reigns thing, whether that's now going to be in Saudi, potentially. Because that was, we talked about it last time out, but that has now been confirmed as happening in October. Or whether that's further down the road. But we also got the return of the Irish lass kicker, the man, Becky Lynch. So we talked about the fact that the Bianca Belair match with Sasha didn't happen. But ultimately, a Bianca Belair match did happen, but just with Becky Lynch. So, the setup, you might have seen it. Bianca comes to the ring first. Always dubious when a champion gets introduced first anyway, because old school and that. Them's the rule.
I would have said that, but it happened quite a lot at SummerSlam, didn't it?
And how many title changes did we have? How many title changes did we have? That's it. So, for those keeping record, I think was it 4 in the end?
Yeah. Tag, US.
So there was the tag, the US, both women's titles. Yeah. So Carmella comes out, and we're like, oh, here we go. It's going to be Belair and Carmella.
Let's not just gloss over that. Carmella comes out to no reaction whatsoever.
Absolutely no reaction.
Not even boos. Like literally, I believe that was. I believe that used to be known in the day as the X-Pac or the X-Pac pop.
The irony is that her partner commentates on Raw, so he wasn't even on the commentary desk when it happened, so he couldn't even build it. But yeah, came out to, as Paul said, absolutely no reaction, and then followed by probably the joint biggest of the night when Becky Lynch's music hit just as the match is about to start. Comes down to the ring, takes out Carmella, challenges Bianca, and the only disappointing thing about that is the fact that the match was seconds long, in the sense of
25 apparently.
All the hard work that's gone in from Belair certainly since the turn of the year, but even before that, just disappeared in less than a minute. So she's obviously going to then get a rematch. But oh, hello, Paul. Paul appears to be raising his hand.
So you might be going on to cover this. So apologies if you are. Disliked it at the time. Thought you've just ruined any momentum she had since WrestleMania there. But obviously, if Lynch is back, you'd imagine she's back full time. If they're putting the belt on her, she's obviously not going to be a heel.
What you mean, like Brock when he has the
Yeah, but she actually likes people. Brock's actually actively gone out of his way to say that he basically he's like Elton John from Bo Selector. He hates people.
Very niche reference, by the way.
Yeah, but you fucking got it, didn't you?
Yeah.
So she's obviously going to come back. Like, she's not going to get booed, so she has to come back as a face, and she needs like heels to go up against. And what better way to turn someone heel than by having them get beat in 25 seconds, as Matt said there. So I can only see this being that Belair will turn heel, and if it goes on that we get like a 6-month program with them two, I'm all for that.
Mm.
So
the dirt sheets are saying that Lynch is going to be the heel.
Oh.
That's what I'd read. But this is the thing, though, isn't it? It's like, who was the biggest heel in WWE for the past 4 or 5 years? It was face Roman Reigns. And it's like, where do they take it? I think it's a difficult one, because also they've built it, and they built it well with Banks and Belair, and then to have to audible, if you believe it, like a week or so out from SummerSlam to something different, and it not be Belair against Carmella, because Christ Almighty, that can't be it. I just think a 25-second squash match on someone who you've built for the past 9 months to a year to be this kind of thing. I think unless they're going to kind of go for the Drew kind of, scrap your way back to the top of the tree again, that might be interesting. And between her and Lynch, there should be good promos, interesting promos. But yeah, it was a strange decision to kind of 25-second squash match, which, yeah.
I think the more confusing thing for people was, if they knew that Banks wasn't going to be there, why show the video package, hyping up the match? It didn't make any sense. Because they obviously had it as part of the opening package for the whole pay-per-view. That was a major storyline for that. And then they had the 2 to 3 minute package before the match. And I don't understand why they went around it the way they did. It was a strange situation.
There's two ways of looking at it for me now, and in the sense of when we talked about it on the card, the two matches I was genuinely looking forward to was Edge and Rollins, and then this one, because this one had a lot to deliver off the back of the WrestleMania stuff, because it's, in a way, it's almost like that difficult second album kind of theory. Like, the first one was so good, and then for them to be able to replicate and then possibly better that, it was always going to be difficult. And in a way, they've kind of solved that problem by not having it happen, because everybody will now remember it for being Becky's return, and it puts more distance between the first match and when it inevitably happens again. And now they've also got this option of instant triple threat if they need it. Again, we referenced the Saudi thing, but last time that they went to Saudi when people were allowed to travel, it was the first ever women's match that had ever taken place there, and it was like a one-on-one match. Well, instant way to one-up that, surely, is by having a triple threat match there, or like a tag title match. Tag titles aren't really holding anybody's interest in that division without being particularly rude to the people that hold them, but that seems to have gone on the back burner, whereas the main... You see, Matt's struggling to remember who they even are at this point.
I honestly couldn't tell you who they are.
Natalya and Tamina, still rocking them tag team titles.
Oh, because she's injured, isn't she?
Yeah, she came back on SmackDown last week, but it's going to take a while to build again. But the two women's titles are like the singles titles will be where the focus are, and again, what better way to drop in a first time ever than having a triple threat match in Saudi rather than just a singles match like last time? So yeah, that kind of makes sense to me. But yeah,
I think the one thing, we've kind of like said this before, is that, and we'll come on to the other company in a minute, no doubt, is that the other company uses social media, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, not so much Facebook, to kind of fill in the gaps. And for me, either use the broadcast or use social media to take out Sasha Banks, and have a mystery person do it, and kind of add into that kind of heel kind of thing of, do the kind of, like Becky Lynch has been teasing coming back to the WWE for months, and every time it's like a bit of a kind of, it's a little bit of a fuck you to the fans, because it's a little bit like, I could be there. Oh no, I'm not. You silly, you silly lot. There's no way it was going to happen. And then you kind of think, this time maybe it could have been like, like, why she got Sasha's wig on, or what's she doing with Sasha's wig in her bag, or, here's a little clip, that looks like her boots, or that looks like her kind of, is someone wearing her top to kind of take her out. And, then you could kind of do the Carmella comes to the ring in the Becky Lynch shirt. And then Becky Lynch is actually the one that kind of does, I think they could have created a build from an unfortunate circumstance, but they just kind of went for it's like a rehash of is it the Royal Rumble when Becky Lynch put herself back in, when she took out Lana, like 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah, it was that.
I was kind of going back a bit though. I must admit, I'm really digging the broccoli rub look. I must admit, when he turned up, I was like, yeah, I'm in on Brock Lesnar. I'm in on this look. I like it. I don't know why. Beards and hair. I don't know. I was like, yeah, I'm in.
It's something different for him though, but as well, like you take stock of what those two particular returnees have been doing in their downtime, so to speak. So Becky was obviously growing a baby, having a baby, caring for a baby. The only thing that we've seen from Brock is him learning how to butcher a pig, which is the most possible Brock Lesnar thing that could ever happen to me. Like, you can't imagine like seeing pictures of him taking his kids to like soccer practice or wrestling practice. But if you think about him like learning how to like cut an animal up, like yeah, that's probably a Brock Lesnar thing to do. But speaking of returns, would these two returns even have happened without the shockwave, as it's been billed, that AEW sent through wrestling on Friday night? Now, this is another one where Mr. Cook will probably chime in, because your favourite UFC fighter of all times returned to wrestling. Some would say after a longer period than others, if you listen to his own promo. But CM Punk debuted on AEW Rampage on Friday night. It is the first time since 2014 that a crowd have chanted CM Punk at a wrestling show when he was actually there, which is a bit of a turn up for the Bucks. But yeah, like, have you guys seen much of this? What did you make of it?
The pop is insane, and the fact that it was absolutely spoiled to death. I don't know. Like, I like surprises. It makes me sound like a real simple cat, but I'm like, it would have been so much better if it would have just been like, holy shit, it's genuinely kind of thing. But it was like, yeah, he's there on Friday, and I don't know what point it was in the broadcast that it happened, but obviously all the fans were
right at the beginning.
Chanted. Was it right at the beginning?
First thing they did, yeah.
And like when he came out, it goes mental. Obviously, it's like United Center, Chicago, all that kind of history that goes with it. And and like I think you said, kind of thing, like the promo. He's got no one to bounce off at the moment because he's not in that kind of either heel or dickish kind of situation at the moment. And I suppose to come out, we've been critical of people like Jericho and not so much Moxley, but some of the people that have been released by WWE and, come out and just started slagging off the WWE. I mean, he's not been there for 7 years, so he can't really kind of start giving them a kick in. He can sit there from afar and slag it off, but it was kind of a bit kind of beige, wasn't it, really, the kind of promo. It wasn't particularly kind of thing. The nod to Ring of Honor was quite nice, but kind of also...
I got the impression that purely because of who it was and the fact it actually happened, he could have literally sat in that ring and set on fire a bag of tiny kittens and people would have still cheered for it because they were that happy just to see him back. But like you say, in all that time, I mean, if anybody's ever got an excuse to crap on WWE, the fact that he got served with his release papers on his wedding day and all the history that kind of goes with it, and then he's not really said that much publicly, and the fact that then he even kind of backhandedly took money from them by working for Fox on one of their punditry shows for a little while as well. Kind of, I don't know if that ended up being a sly dig, but nothing was a more direct shot than the fact that he said when he came back that he left pro wrestling basically on the date that he left Ring of Honor, completely missed referencing any of his time in WWE. Regular listeners to the podcast will know that obviously I have particular beef on the fact that we could have seen him at WrestleMania and didn't for that decision. Disappointing. But that's kind of his call. One thing that I did like, one callback that I did think was cool was the fact that every member of the crowd had the potential to get issued with an ice cream bar, and that was a big thing during his WWE time. And it's come out since then that was something that he arranged personally. That wasn't something that AEW did. Punk actually did that off his own dime, basically, and set that up himself. So I thought that was quite a nice touch, and kind of, I don't know if it goes so far as to say how much he actually cares for maybe the audience that was there and the fact it was in Chicago, or if it's just another excuse within his first night in AEW to give a bit more of the finger to WWE. I'm not sure.
I think he's bright enough to know that most things that he does kind of have a lot of meaning to it, because apparently someone had said, "Oh, it says on his trainers he'd written ACFC." So like, what it's meant to be is always Chicago, forever Chicago. But obviously, kind of, we might want to talk on about it a little bit. But obviously, people are kind of reading into it along with like the Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks and stuff like that. The kind of Adam Cole kind of side of it as well, and the fact that Adam Cole in his match against Kyle O'Reilly used the Britt Baker
lockjaw, wasn't it?
Lockjaw on Kyle O'Reilly. It's, you know, and we can kind of start to look at, obviously, Nick Khan showing his face and decided to have a little chat and a sit down with somebody. Well, it's kind of the
Ariel Helwani, I think his name is.
I know, I always have real problems with that guy's name because I'm never sure how I'm supposed to pronounce it. But is it Ariel Helwani?
Ariel Helwani, I think he's called, yeah.
And obviously, kind of come out and said, you know, we're going to making changes and all this kind of thing. And you just think you're just missing a trick at the moment, because like you're gonna lose some really, really big names to things because you're trying to change something that didn't need fixing.
I didn't actually have Cole down on my list, and I thought by the time that we then come to record Getting Over, ready for the next pay-per-view, which by the way it's looking, I'm not even sure if there's going to be an October one. They've not referenced anything other than Saudi, or a September one, sorry, other than Saudi in October. So we'll kind of, you know, keep your eyes out for that. We'll see how that goes. But Cole's contract situation, I would hope, will be resolved by the time that we next come to record. So we'll see how we fare with that one. But yeah, that was pretty much everything wrestling wise. But as promised, it's not just wrestling this time out. Well, it kind of is, because it's wrestling themed beers as well. So I shall hand you over to the very capable Mr. Matthew Moore for some Survivor Series Brew York talk.
Well, as you know, as we like in the beer industry, everybody loves a collab. So we thought that, being as Brew York released their Survivor Series pack recently, and for the beer drinkers amongst us who consume the alcoholic variety, we thought that you know, when it comes to wrestling and beer, we've spoken about this before, that we need to do a little kind of review of these four beers. So you know, we've kind of if you haven't listened to it, why on earth not get back and listen to it? We've reviewed Brew York, and we've definitely kind of tipped our hat to the fact that they definitely enjoy a wrestling related beer. Triple H, to kind of think there's a Big Eagle one as well, all that kind of thing. So they released the Brew York Survivor Series 4-pack. So brewed in collaboration with Yakima Chief hops, based in the Pacific Northwest in the USA. So you're kind of looking like Portland, that kind of area, Seattle. So 100% farmer-owned global hop supplier. The Survivor Series was created to show their newest product, Cryo Pop. So it's a new kind of hops that they've got. Being one of the only labs in the world to be able to translate raw hop aroma into finished beers has enabled them to engineer a supercharged hop pellet packed with the most effective aromatic components. We've chosen to showcase the many ways that this Cryo Pop pellet can transform various beers by creating 4 different pale ales with various hop combinations. So we've got Big Popper Pump, the 5.5% Cryo Pop Pale Ale. So I presume this was the kind of, looking at it, this was the base that they started with. Then we had Sweet Chinook Music, obviously a nod to Shawn Michaels, which was the Cryo Pop pellet again with a Chinook hop, the Scotty 2 Hoppy, which was a Cryo Pop and an Idaho 7 Pale Ale, and then the Thundertaker, which was the Cryo Pop and Talus Pale Ale. All of these topped out at 5.5%. There you go. The Glamorous Assistants have kindly demonstrated each can. So what
we didn't even smash them together and pour them down ourselves at the same time.
They didn't do a Stone Cold one. If they do a Stone Cold one, there'd probably be some sort of law case.
I believe, as you well know, Mr. Woodmansey, there is another brewery that does a Cold Stone beer.
Yep.
So
that collab, I would suggest that collab will be coming around the time of WrestleMania next year, as just kind of as a spoiler for everybody.
On the basis of, as well, just as a live throw-in, at the time we are actually recording, the as yet unnamed but now named Top Rope Brewing are actually in York tonight as well, and have been to Brew York this evening. So
no, it was at a different bar.
They went there. They did go to Brew York during the day, but then they're at North South York.
Yeah, it was just a different tap room and so on.
We might as well work through the beers from, as most people do, top to bottom. Yeah, I think most people work top to bottom, yeah. So the first one's the Big Popper Pump. I had this probably a couple of weeks ago, and I found it very easy to drink. Probably like a bit of a caramel finish to it, but maybe that was just my kind of taste buds with it. Like I said, very easy to drink. It's kind of got that kind of sweet finish that I like. I enjoyed it as a starter. Kind of like looking at it there, it seems like the base kind of brew that then they've adapted to do the three that followed on. We can discuss the Scott Steiner reference in a minute, but what did you guys think of the beer?
I thought it was nice. Yeah, I thought I've just gone with my comment personally was that it was a light tropical flavour with a nice creamy finish, sort of more creamy on the mouth feel and stuff like that for me. But
yeah, that's where I'd like to say the caramel kind of things that kind of got that kind of nice
velvety smooth sort of texture and stuff like that.
Yeah, Stu?
The only downside for me was that I stupidly didn't do it in order. And I had a different one of the series first, which was instantly better than this one. If anything, I would say it was a little thin for me personally. I did like the flavour. The flavour still came through very, very nicely. It was a bit... It was obviously definitely hoppy, but it had to me it was like that piney element to it as well. It was fine. It's a solid 5.5% beer. But you can tell from having the others that this was the least complex of the four. It does stick out in that respect for me. It's not a slight on it in that respect. It was still a nice beer. Just not my favourite of the four.
Yeah, I think like kind of when we kind of start to talk about like adding the extra hops. Adding the extra hops in, you'd hope would add more flavour, because if you're going to add different hops into it, you're going to want it to have generally a positive effect to the kind of thing. So if we move on to the next one in the series, the Sweet Chinook Music. Again, I'll let Stu start with this one, because this is the one that he particularly wanted to drink.
I like Chinook hops, so as soon as this was a thing and it was like, right, who's going to take this beer, I was like, yeah, please, I'll have that one, thank you very much. So I guess stupidly, because of that was the first one of the 4 that I cracked, and it did not disappoint. The fact that they've kept the Chinook hops and they've given that to the HBK branding, it had a sweet finish. So that is it perfectly fits the bill for that. Had a very slight hint of grapefruit on the way through to that, but it was definitely, of the 4. I mean, I'm just, as for the YouTubers, you'll be able to see that I have just cracked number 4, which is the Thundertaker in that glass. But of the 4, I feel like I genuinely peaked at the first. I think the Sweet Chinook music was my favourite of the 4. So it's the Chinook hops though. I've done myself there by not having it last. So
I've had 3 of the 4. I'm just being a lightweight. I couldn't handle the three others tonight. So I've had the Scott Steiner Big Popper Pump. I've had the Scotty 2 Hoppy. And I've had the Sweet Chinook music, and I really enjoyed that one. The Sweet Chinook, I like I said, that kind of tropical flavour to it. Definitely the grapefruit finish, and the slightly bitter finish at the end of it. I quite like that the kind of slight. It wasn't like a massive one. It was just like a little kind of tickle on the back of the throat kind of thing that I really enjoyed, and kind of like, again, the kind of redness of the beer kind of was decent to look at. Mr. Williams, you kind of looked like you had a little kind of.
It wasn't anything that was going to add any sort of like value to it. I was basically going to say they've done like a pun for sort of all of the beers. Why did and they've called the sort of the Scott Steiner one Big Popper Pump. Why have they not called it Big Hopper Pump?
It's we might as well get into it now. You know, we kind of like looked at it, and you kind of look at the other 3, and you're like, right, Shawn Michaels, WWF, WWE. You're kind of like, yeah, that's the person that you associate their greatest run in wrestling as being a WWE, WWF wrestler. Scotty 2 Hotty, exactly the same. And then, I mean, do we even need to discuss the Undertaker when it comes to? Oh yeah, you know, all that you know. Of course, his massive run in WC. You know, oh yeah, you know, because you know, all elderly wrestling have signed. Oh no, oh yeah, remember when he did that like 2-year sabbatical in TN? No. Oh yeah. So let's get back to Scott Steiner. Oh yeah, you know. So you kind of think. Yeah, where did he do most of his best work? WCW, and I think is that kind of like, you know, I don't think if you spoke to someone about Scott Steiner, they wouldn't kind of say he was a WWE wrestler. I don't think you'd kind of talk about his runs as a wrestler in WWF, WWE first. You'd talk about WCW. You'd probably kind of, yes, Mr. Woodmansey?
The only thing that will ever be talked about for now and evermore to do with Scott Steiner will be nothing to do with WCW nor WWF as it was at the time. Despite the fact that, for my money, the Steiner brothers are still overlooked as one of the greatest tag teams of all time in that company. The thing that will be talked about, and one thing I'm very disappointed about in the fact that they've not included this on the brand and on the can, is his promo in TNA building up to the Sacrifice pay-per-view. And for my money, not only should I cannot agree with Paul more that they should have called it Big Hopper Pump, because that would have just have made much more sense. But it should have said something to the effect on the back of that you could only drink the beer in thirds, or 33 and thirds maybe. Because that promo, if you don't know what I'm talking about, type in Scott Steiner promo TNA, and it will be the first thing that comes up.
Just Google Scott Steiner maths, and that'll be the first thing that comes up. Guaranteed.
I mean, he's no Carol Vorderman, but you know, he's up there.
I'll tell you something. It's maybe he is Carol Vorderman though, because I've never known people be able to mix fractions, percentages, other sort of algebra and stuff like that into one sort of seamless transaction before, but he managed to do it. So. Oh man!
I honestly thought Stu was gonna bring it home for me, because I don't think about anything to do with his wrestling career. I just think about his chest. That's the only thing.
What you do in your own time, Andy, is...
Any time his name comes up, it's like, oh yeah, his chest. Yeah, the fuck went on there?
Well, I mean, you don't just have to don't even just have to say his chest. So the favourite phrase when he rejoined WWE that I think the Jerry the King Lawler always used to say was, he has muscles in places that people... Oh, what was it? He's got muscles in places that people don't have places. Or something like that. And so it was just he was just outrageously sort of misproportioned.
You know, if you get hark back to when you were in primary school and your artwork maybe wasn't at the level that it maybe is now, and you were like, right, draw a guy who's quite muscly, and you'd be like Popeye, pretty much. That's Scott Steiner, and they've done him a bit of a disservice on the card, because I mean,
his biceps need to be kind of. I mean, they kind of got the weird tennis ball kind of bicep that he had at the bottom, but it needs to be a bit more jacked than that. There you go.
There you go. Okay. Comparison for the YouTube viewers. Get yourself along to YouTube. Check it out.
I mean, the best thing is as well is he's got that sort of that healthy vein that you always see in wrestlers or bodybuilders, where it sort of runs from one wrist all the way through his chest down to the other wrist on the other side.
It's not a vein, Paul. It's where they zip the suit out.
Oh, God! That's not ideal.
What exactly is going on there? I hate to think.
Has he detached? He might have. I presume at some point he's detached a pectoral, or both. I think what? Because he's got a nasty scar as well, hasn't he? Because what was that? Was that someone attacking him, or was that?
He's not suffering from a case of the Kofi Kingstons, is what you're telling me there.
He's got a weird enough chest as it is.
I've seen him interviewed about it, and he's like, nope, never been injured. It's just how it is. Deal with it. Poor guy.
Or if you spoke to Eddie Dennis, he is quite willing to admit he's separated both pectorals, and that's still why he wears a vest. Because he's like, yeah, it's weird under there.
He's checking east and west, is what you're telling me.
So we kind of looked at the Big Popper Pump, which we should be called Big Hopper Hump, or
Easy.
Big Hopper Pump, or something like that. Yeah, you've had a couple of beers, it kind of gets increasingly difficult to say. The switching up music. If we move on to, I'll pass over to you guys. The Thundertaker one.
Granted, I've not had all of the four. I've only had the Big Popper Pump and the Thundertaker, but obviously the Thundertaker was definitely the thicker of the two beers, and I'd hazard a guess that it was the thickest of all four.
I still think Chin Up was up there. It might be on par in terms of mouthfeel, but the flavour profile, considering that it's still got that the cryo base to it, the fact that the one edition has changed it up massively. It's kind of weird because it's kind of got it's got a bit more of a grassy kind of taste to it to me, and I know you guys before we came on and referenced like the coconut element of it, and I was like, it's not a stout. How's that going to work? Absolutely does.
Like I said, I can't comment on the Thundertaker one. I haven't had that one yet.
I don't know if there's like there's a beer that I had a couple of months or about a year or so back, but I think it had, is it Sabro hops or something like that? Mm-hmm. They seem to have like a coconutty sort of element to them as well. So I don't know if they're involved in that sort of brew.
This is Talus hops as well as the Cryopop stuff. It's kind of, I don't know. It's definitely got like coconut element to it. The further through it I'm getting, the more I'm getting like a bit of an aniseed flavour to it as well, which isn't something I would usually associate with a pale ale, but it is very much working. And to suit the kind of theme of the can and the artwork, it's, of the four, it's definitely the darkest of the brews. There has been some kind of dank stuff amongst it, but that's definitely the darkest of the four. Again, if I was going to pick one, I'm still going to pick the Sweet Chinook Music because I'm biased to Chinook hops, but this is a very close second of the four in the pack for me.
So then the last one, I probably shouldn't have left, kind of thing. Scotty Too Hoppy. So that was the Cryopop and
famous headline wrestler, the guy who headlined lots of pay-per-views and WrestleManias. Left him to last.
Give the man his due. Get him there.
He's clearly too cool, isn't he?
And
Scribble tracks.
As I initially incorrectly felt, when Stu first showed me pictures of those beers, I was like, oh my god, that's amazing. Stu's managed to get an autographed beer. No, he's just got squigglies on his trousers. So
apparently Scotty Too Hotty signs his name like a 3-year-old. Apparently. I mean, I've enjoyed this one. This one's probably on that kind of like, probably a bit more piney, a bit more kind of. It's got that kind of hops, kind of. I wouldn't say burn to it. It's not a full-on burn, but it's kind of got that kind of end to it. I do like Idaho hops, with referencing kind of to add a collab into the collab. The Idaho Train with Top Rope is probably one of my definitely one of my favourite beers that Top Rope do. It's probably one of my favourite beers that I've had in a while. I've enjoyed this the Scotty Too Hoppy one. It's not as fruity IPA. It's like I said, it's kind of probably got that kind of more florally kind of side to it as opposed to in my opinion. But as with the other two that I've drank so far, it drinks really well and it drinks really easily. At 5.5%, they're all 5.5%. It's quite easy drinking kind of thing that you're not going to possibly feel the consequences too hard in the morning.
I think that's the thing for me as well. I had the Scotty Too Hoppy third, and it kind of at that point ranked definitely sort of middle of the road between the Big Popper Pump and the Sweet Chinook Music. It's definitely more on the floral side. Every single one of these beers has been so easy to drink, and I know the whole point of it was that they'd base it on the Cryopop hop, and then kind of try and make it different. Considering that they're all bang on 5.5%, they have all been an entirely different flavour profile. And in terms of like, if that was the mission statement for the whole kind of let's brew these beers, they've definitely nailed it. Because if you had a blindfold on and tried those 4 beers, you would know that there were 4 different beers. You would know there was no duplication, despite the fact that the base is kind of the same for all of them.
Yeah, they've done something kind of really. Again, we talk about this regularly, and we've spoken about it either with the non-alcoholic beers that we've talked about, with the brews that we've talked about, where they've kind of played with the different hops and stuff like that. It's really clever what they've done, because they've picked out. You've got 4 different beers. You could sit there and you could line them up in glasses, and you could see there were 4 different beers, because they all look different, kind of colour wise, and like you said, the flavour profile as well is all different. The best thing is, like you said though, is that they all drink really well, and drink probably a little bit too quickly. But then again, we're and hopefully as people watch more and more of it, or listen to or watch more and more of the Pursuit of Happiness, so if you're coming in from the Getting Over podcast, you're very welcome to come and listen to the Pursuit of Happiness ones. You'll find out that we are stands of different breweries. We don't all have the same one, but we are definitely stands of the Brew York beers, and a big fan of their IPAs and their sours, and their stouts, which we're possibly going to discuss one of in the future, just as a little kind of teaser, as we go off air, as it were. So yeah, I think probably call it a day there with the collab. Things work quite well.
Well, maybe we should just drink more beer on the wrestling podcast, is what I'm thinking. Is that how this works?
I mean, it's not a terrible idea. Obviously, at this point, we've obviously sort of given all our feelings on the sort of the wrestling themed beers that we've had. Obviously, Mr. Cook's been sat there offering his 2 penneth here and there, but he's been supping from a little container as he's been going. What have you been drinking tonight, Andy?
Oh yes.
This guy featured. It's gone now. It's gone. But featured. See, I'm in a bit of a difficult position where I'm getting low on the beers. I went from 3 boxes to 2 boxes to 1 to half a box. Obviously, the fridge is still jam-packed, but what it has allowed is for me to work through some of like my older stuff, which is also my favourite stuff. So that there was a peanut butter milk stout. I think it's been mentioned before. It's an absolute delight. And then the big guy features the big dog's favourite. It's Big Drop Brewery's pastry sour, which if you saw my fridge right now, you'd think I was sponsored by them, because the only beer that is in there right now is the Big Drop pastry sour, and like I said, the fridge is jam packed. So,
and as previously discussed with us, they're tall boy beers as well. So
they are tall boys. That's why I need the bigger cold container.
That pastry sour is, honestly, I dream of that pastry sour. It's like, we've kind of discussed this, and we discussed this on the Big Drop brewery kind of pod that we did on the Pursuit of Happiness, and like their standard of alcohol-free beers is absolutely awesome. I've been out and I've bought the Beavertown low alcohol one recently, and I've had that just as a kind of midweek kind of little one. So for those of you who are non-alcoholic drinkers, we also cater for that on the Pursuit of Happiness as well. So I'll be having another one of those coming up, and me and Andy will chat about possibly doing some more kind of like full-on Andy's best bits, as it were, pod for one of the alcohol-free ones, as opposed to just focusing on one brewery. All right then.
Cool.
Should we draw a plug there, gents?
Yeah. So, like you say, we've done a bit of a mashup this time. Join us next time for the Pursuit of Hoppiness full fat episode, if you like, and obviously the Getting Over podcast will continue, and keep your ears out for the next fully fledged pay-per-view that is announced. Fingers crossed it's not just Saudi, but if it is, you know we've got you. So give us all the likes.
It was the Pursuit of Happiness that can drink you through that shit show. So, but give us all the likes, shares, and subscribes as you always do, and every single one is much appreciated. So thank you very much.
So there we go. What do you think of that? Something a little bit different. If you're checking us out on YouTube, thanks. If you're subscribing, bigger thanks. Same for audio-wise or wherever you're getting your podcasts. If you'd like to get in touch with us, you can jump over to thecookiecast.com. Check us out over there. Grab one of our social media links or even drop us an email. Let us know how you're getting on. Let us know if you enjoy the wrestling, if you're enjoying the beers. So that's it for this one. Until next time, I'm saying bye to you, and I'll catch you then. See ya.